What's up, guys? I'm going to be talking a little bit slurred today because I was just at the dentist and my whole side of my mouth is all frozen. But what I want to talk about today was something to do kind of with bullying and loneliness, and what had inspired this was some good friends of ours were talking to us, and they were saying that their son, a rumor had been going around about their son, and child services was involved, and that led their son to being put in a position that he shouldn't have been put in, and feeling extremely isolated from everybody else. And it left him in a position that no child should ever be in. Now he's only 10 years old, and to be put in that position when you're that young is a pretty difficult thing, and you don't quite understand exactly why things are happening and things like that. So what I thought I would do was share my story with people that are watching this, and hopefully it can shed a little bit of light on some things, and inspire maybe other people to not feel as alone as they might feel, and to just to know that there's more out there than just this pain that you're going through. So I have shared this story in my blog, and you're more than welcome to go check it out. It's on leedebeau.com, and the blog is, I think it's A Little Part of Me is the title of it. I think that's the name of it. It was a couple years ago that I wrote it, and my family has written it or read it, and I know that there have been a few other people that have, but I haven't. This is the first time that I will be telling my story and kind of putting it out there. So yeah, like I said, if you have any comments or if there's anything that's bothering you, and please feel free to reach out to me, and know that there is always somebody there who is willing to talk with you and listen to you, and that you're not alone. So when I was 12, I started cutting myself. There's a little bit of a backstory, I guess. When I was 7, my parents had split up, and I was the youngest of 4 at the time. A little while later, I had another little sister after that, but youngest of 4, and parents split up, and I feel like there was not a lot of attention just for one child, only because there's so many of us, and especially back in the 80s, things were financially tough, so there's always, not trying to make excuses, but yeah, I didn't have maybe the attention that a young child needed, and I just, in my family, and I know where my parents had got it from their parents, and emotions weren't really shared in our household. There were no I love yous, and if there were, then it was very, very rare. And yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up in a bad situation. It was just my situation. And so yeah, when I was 12 years old, 12 years old was when I first started cutting myself. I remember it vividly. I was in grade 7, and if I was sitting here, my class was over on this side behind me, the chalkboard was over there, and I had a wall right here, right in front of my face, and I basically spent the next all of grade 7 and grade 8 sitting with this wall in front of me, and I think I was put there because apparently I was disruptive. I don't remember being disruptive in the class. It wasn't that I was being bad, it was more that I was talking with people and trying to enjoy or whatever I was doing in class. Again, I wasn't doing anything bad besides talking. And so yeah, I got put in front of this brick wall, and I guess I had been already at a point in my life where I was alone, and so sitting in front of a brick wall, having to turn my head to read the chalkboard and take my notes that way. That was I had a lot of time to think, and I remember when I first started doing it, my tool of choice was a compass, thing that you make circles with, only because it was hard and it was sharp. And what I would do is, into my arm, I would slowly start to dig this into my arm. Always when I wore sleeves so that I could kind of cover it up, and I wouldn't exactly say that I was slicing my arm, because I know that there are a lot of people that have done that a lot worse than I have, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but I think at the time, because I was so young, I was trying to tell myself that I was just building my strength up, or seeing how tough I could be, and just by digging into my arms with this compass. And I never actually sliced my arm and had it bleeding all over, but that was the first time that I really started thinking about death and not wanting to be where I was, because I was so alone, and I was secluded from my class, and I was secluded from my family in a sense, and I was just by myself a lot. And a year or two before that, I had changed schools, mainly because the rest of my siblings had moved on to high school, so I moved into a school that was more in my district, so I didn't have to walk to school myself. But yeah, so I spent 2 years of just staring at this wall, and it slowly progressed from there. And by the time that I was 15 or 16, again, I had friends. I never had a best friend, and when I did later on in high school, then I don't feel like it lasted for very long, mainly because we just went separate ways. But I never really had a really close group of friends. Again, in high school I did a little bit, but I was always still feeling alone. I always wanted to be that type of person where people would be calling me and saying, hey, come on, let's go, instead of having me being the one always initiating and trying to call and trying to find friends. I needed somebody to actually show me that they cared. And by the time I was 15 or 16 was the first time that I had a rope around my neck, and I was standing on the edge of the balcony, and the other end of the rope was tied to the banister, similar to that one over there. And basically I was just leaning over and wanting to kill myself. That happened a few times actually. And I think that the only thing that really held me back from actually cutting myself, or from finally ending up killing myself, was the things that was holding me back was that I was so embarrassed, and that I had such a desire to need acceptance from my family, that I knew that if that had happened, then I would disappoint them even more, and I still wouldn't have acceptance. And I think that is the only thing that really kept me from killing myself when I was a teenager. All through high school, again, I was always great at skateboarding and snowboarding and playing football, and again, I had all these things that I could kind of use to vent, but so much of it was done alone. And even still to this time, I still struggle with loneliness. Again, I have my family now, and they are the most important parts of my life. And but when it comes to friendship, that's still something that I struggle with greatly. And I'm always searching for people that I can connect with and that like I said earlier, I'm looking for people who actually want me to be around and who might call me and say, hey, come on out, let's go out, we're going to do something, instead of me always having to be the one who's initiating things. So going back, in high school, it turned into drinking. I wasn't drinking excessively, but enough that I shouldn't have been doing it. I mean, I was bringing booze into school and drinking in class, without anybody knowing. I gave up. I gave up on high school, and even though it came pretty easy to me, my last year of high school was just a disaster. Luckily, I graduated and I had gone back to kind of boost my marks, but that did not help at all. And I ended up leaving my last year halfway through the year because I was just wasting my time. At some point in the year, I had actually jumped in my car and I just started driving. In the middle of my school day, I had started driving. I got about, I don't know, 60 to 100 kilometers away when I decided that I would turn around, only again because I felt like I would be a disappointment to other people. I felt like running away was something that would solve my problems, and even now I still talk to my wife about just packing up and moving, and I don't know if it's something that I've built into myself as a mechanism to try to fight whatever pain I have inside of me. But yeah, there was a long time from when I was 12 years old. It probably started before then when my parents had split up. But from then until the end of high school was an extremely tough time in my life, and there were many times when I considered suicide and killing myself. There's still a lot of times today, not today, but now that I never consider killing myself ever anymore. But death is still something that I think about on a regular basis, and whether it's what happens after or whatever it is, it's hard to explain, but there's always something in my mind that's making me think about death. Again, not in a horrible way, but it's just something that I carry, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that also carry it. So anyways, that's my story. Something else that helped inspire me to kind of talk about this today was a book that I was reading, and in the book, the author was telling his story, and it was about him in university and kind of wanting to make sure that he was making the best of it, and he wasn't at the time, so he'd considered killing himself. And he had a hard time talking about his story, and he was explaining in the book that everybody's story is different, and we might all think that our story is not worth telling, and that it's just this or it's just that, and yeah, I didn't really cut myself, so it's not really a big deal. But you know what, it is a big deal, and there are a lot of people who go through things that are very similar to this every single day, and some people don't have the ways to take care of it themselves. Luckily, for myself, I was able to deal with things on my own and kind of get beyond all the issues that I was having and going through all through my teenage years. But there's a lot of people who don't have that. So I really truly encourage you to reach out to somebody who you think might be feeling down on themselves, or who's lonely, or who just isn't having a good time in their life, because we never know what other people are thinking. I know that my family, my mom knew part of what I was going through, because she had found a letter that I had written for an assignment, and so she kind of knew what I was going through. But a lot of us don't know how to deal with this type of situation with people who are um, who are in a bad place in their life. And sometimes it's just a matter of being able to reach out to somebody and talk to them and show that you're interested in them and show that you care about them. That's all that they need. um, sure, there's some people that might have deeper issues, and or that most likely have deeper issues, but sometimes just having that person there to listen to, and that you can express what you're feeling, sometimes just having that can be a huge help. I know that later on in high school, then when I did have a couple close friends, then suicide wasn't even close to the top of my mind at that time, because I was busy and I had people who I felt cared about me, and I know that I could probably still call them to this day, and we could still kind of jump back into how things were. Obviously, things change when you grow up and you have kids and a family and whatnot, but having people around you that care is massive. And even whether it's your kids or a teacher or your parents or siblings or just a coworker, whoever it is, there is always somebody there who is willing to listen and who you can talk to. So with that being said, I just want to say thanks for taking some time out to listen to my story, and I hope that if you are having any issues, or if there's something that's going on and you need somebody to reach out to, or to have somebody to listen to, then please feel free to contact me, or just sometimes even writing a letter. Writing down what you are actually feeling can be a big help. Yeah, so thank you for watching this, and I wish you all the best. Bye now.